Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, thank you. Sorry, I was like, oh, I'm on.
You're on. We're
Thank you
live.
very much.
We're going to get the logo out of the way and then we'll start the show. All right, here today to talk about your short film, No Messages, which is available on Reveel'd.net streaming platform. You can sign up for free and watch wonderful content. Tell me, I want to know about this film in your own words. What's the premise of the film?
The premise of the film is a barman who it's a day in the life of a Dublin barman who is waiting on a phone call, and the sort of annoying regulars that he has to endure over the course of one day, and that's pretty much it. I started it with an idea about I wanted to write a film where nothing happens, which is like a stupid idea, but someone suggested I should. So I tried, and then of course plot got in the way and started to come in. But I deliberately wrote it to be shot in one location as cheaply as I could, just because I wanted to, I wanted to have something that I could show off my scripting and directing talents. So that was the thing. I thought a barman, we can shoot in a pub, that'll be the whole lot, and just set it over. It just turned into this sort of waiting for a phone call, and then just enduring the locals and his boss in the pub, and then an ending that's slightly ripped off from Swingers, and that's it, and you're done.
I was actually going to reference Swingers, Clerks, Dazed and Confused, a lot of movies of the mid to late 90s, which I adored growing up, which were the 20 somethings, early 30 somethings, sort of lamenting their next chapter of life and sort of feeling stuck in a position and just waiting for that next thing to come along. And I think you sort of captured that motif and that essence. Tell me about the cast of this film, because like the acting in this I think is phenomenal and really stands out. Often in short films, you're dealing with people at the beginning of their careers, but I just felt everyone was so natural and so grounded, and it was really easy to connect to everything that was happening in the story because I felt your cast was so fantastic.
They were. I mean, we got really lucky. The first person cast was the lead, was Rory Connolly, who's a friend of mine, but is also at the time and is still in a comedy group called Diet of Worms, and they had a few shows, a few pilots and things. They went on. They had a show on BBC in the UK. So he was pretty. I knew he was good and he'd be capable. And then after that, I just sort of threw the net out into the Dublin acting scene and got very lucky in that our the spark on the shoot had the script, and his friend was on a shoot with another actor who was much more established and had been lots of stuff. David Murray, who plays the boss. He gave him the script, and David rang me and really liked it and said, "Look, I'm coming off a shoot, and I have." It lined up exactly when we were shooting. He was finishing and then he was starting on another job the next week. And he said, "Look, I want to do something in the meantime." And being in a pub for that time helped because he could just have pints in the evening as well. And so we got really lucky with him. And then we just auditioned people, and we saw like Lacey, who plays the kind of love interest. She's gone on to do great stuff, and even down to like the smaller parts, like Dermot Murphy plays the character who comes in, the young lad who comes in to try to use the bathroom. There's an ongoing thing with kids trying to use the bathroom, which was taken from a pub I used to drink in all the time, and the barman would hate the kids coming in trying to use the jacks. But Dermot, it was the first. He told me since it was the first thing he's been on. It was the first film he'd been in, and he's gone on to be in like Bohemian Rhapsody and lots of things.
Wow.
Yeah, he's going to be stunningly successful.
I love that. Do you have that sort of like polite sense of pride, like when you got to know somebody in their early days, and then you just get to champion them and cheer for them as their careers soar?
absolutely claiming credit for every single thing in his career.
I was trying to knock your ego down a little bit, but you know,
No, no.
you can
I
just
bump
ramp it
into
back
him
up.
at film festivals every so often, and it's great to see him. And he's like, just be like, oh, what's he doing next? It's super. I mean, obviously, none of it's down to me, but I didn't even know till a few years later that it was the first thing he'd been in. I just
So this
presumed.
film, this was released in 2012, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the of shooting it. We shot
Yeah.
it in October 2011, which is terrifying.
So looking back, I find like it's interesting as at least as I distance myself from short films that I did back in the day, it is this time capsule of what everybody's like talent level, abilities, like where they were. And sometimes it's interesting when you do, I don't like to often go back and watch my own films, but I do like to kind of reflect on like where oh look where everybody's sort of gone from this and their careers are spider webbed off of. And I think it's just that's one of the things, like, you know, short films, you know, we talk about them being a calling card. That's sort of their main purpose, to get us out there and get us on the map as filmmakers. But it really is that you can see the progression of sometimes when a group of people came together and how their careers went from there. And I think it's always kind of magic when you get to that sort of 10-year mark, you know, not that it's an arbitrary number, right? 10 years, 11 years doesn't really matter. Is there a lesson that you think back that was like something you learned on this shoot that stands out to you, that you've been able to, like, something you overcame, or a problem you faced and conquered and have carried through in your filmmaking that's always stuck with you from this shoot in particular?
Oh wow. I mean, we faced a lot of problems on it because I mean, we did have a budget, but it was a redundancy check
Yeah.
that I had gotten from a post house where I was an editor and I'd been laid off, and a bit of crowdfunding. We didn't have much, but we could, we fed the crew, we paid the pub for the location and pints pulled and everything. But we encountered a lot of stuff. I mean, locking down locations is a big one that I learned. Like, we got these guys, Kev and Gar, who run the Thomas House pub where we shot, which is probably the best pub in Dublin. So if anyone's ever in Dublin, go there. We got them just to give us the run of the pub for like 3 days. They had just taken it over when we shot there, so they were still sort of gearing up to open, and they let us in. And that was super because we could get in there early in the morning and shoot all day as long as we needed. The power company did try to come and shut the power down on the building
No.
at one point.
I always talk about every shoot has that unpredictable problem where you
Yes.
can, you know, short of like an act of God of a hurricane or something, like there's always something where you're like, we've planned for everything. And then you're like, we could not have possibly planned for the power company deciding to come. And what was their logic behind that? Was it because it wasn't supposed to be turned on yet, or like change of ownership?
It was change of ownership. The
Mhm.
previous owners had run up debts everywhere and had been not great business people. So these guys, the guys who took it over, then were dealing with the fallout from that. Like,
Yeah.
the pub is, a minute's walk from the Guinness brewery in Dublin, but Guinness wouldn't deal with them. Like, it took them months to get Guinness to deliver kegs because they were
Wow.
like, you guys owe us so much money. And they were like, no, we're different
We
people.
don't. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for what happened previously, but yeah.
So, like, we're in the middle of a shot, and Gar runs in and goes, sorry, runs in and has to get his business documents to prove to the power company that they're a different business to the previous one and they're not allowed to cut the power. And so we had stuff like that. That was tough. We had one or two actors, one actor in particular who didn't turn up
Oh boy.
on one of the days when we had to shoot a bit of his stuff. So if you pay close attention, I'm like, I think my shoulder plays him. He's over the shoulder, and we had to get him another time, and we tried to cut it, and then we had to get him back in and pick it up. But
Well, you come from an editing background as much as writing and directing. Do you find being your own editor and having the editing skill that you're able to solve problems like that, or approach the film in terms of what you actually need to shoot versus shooting too much coverage because you're already thinking in your head like an editor?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really does help. I was able to, like, when you're short on time and you're sort of amalgamating shots and everything. I was able to, in my head, be able to go like, oh, well, okay, as long as we get this shot, I can make this scene work, or that sort of thing. And, I only had myself to blame. Whereas when you're editing someone else's stuff, you can blame everyone else for not getting
everyone else, that focus puller, that grip whose shoe is in the shot, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're directing and cutting it, it's not something I really would do that often or plan to do. I was going to get a friend of mine to cut it, but he just got really busy, and I was like, okay, that's fair enough. I couldn't pay anyone, so we were like, okay, I'll just do it myself.
I still have the Gollum effect. I edit all my own stuff. It's just too precious, and I haven't found that creative partner yet where I'm like, I can trust handing my child off to raise it.
Yeah.
One day, I think. I'd like to spend less time in the edit chair, but until then, how do you feel? You make this 2012. I know from the description it's won some awards, so you send it out to festivals. How do you feel that this helped progress your career and take you to kind of the next chapter of your filmmaking?
It did. It did do that quite well. I mean, that's what I was writing a lot at the time, and I just needed something to get something made because I was applying for funding and not getting it. And I just went, look, if I can just make something that shows my scripts can become films that are, acceptable to watch, I can go on and have it, because the only other thing I directed had been a few years before, and I hadn't really. It was the first thing I'd done. It wasn't really great, and this was the first script of mine that was being made properly, anything outside of college. So, it did well at festivals. It didn't do didn't wow anyone, but it got solid reviews. It played very well in front of audiences. I got to see it at packed cinemas a couple of times, and it got good laughs. It was solid, which is what I wanted. It's not an award. Mm-hmm. It's not that the comedies a lot of the time don't tend to win awards. Now, that's not always true, but I really just wanted it to be like, okay, here it is. This is, you can watch this, and I'm proud of it. I can say like, that's my script, and I can. So give me money to make more, please.
Yeah, look, I've proven my worth. I pulled the sword from the stone. Now give me my mission.
And then I from there, I got a few writing jobs and started writing on TV shows here in Ireland, and I went on to do the national broadcaster here, RTE, have a series called Storyland, which is like web. It started off as a web series competition.
Okay.
With like voting off and stuff like that, which was always I hated. But then they got rid of the voting aspect of it, and it just became a web series thing. So they'd fund 5 or 6 web series every year or every couple of years. And we got one of those. A script I wrote got one of those, and we made that in around 2014. We shot that, came out in 2015. And from that, then the production company we worked with, I was hired by them to work on a couple of scripts, a couple of different TV shows to come in and do rewrites, a couple of, helping out new writers, things like that. And from there, it just kind of, I started picking up steam, getting jobs here and there, writing on different TV shows. So I've been pretty solidly writing since then. Directing has been something that's kind of taken a backseat. I haven't really pushed that because I've written stuff and then had the Storyland series I did. My friend Vincent directed it, and he's 10 times the director I could ever hope to be. So when I saw him directing my stuff, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's a better idea. I'll just write stuff and get really good directors to do it, because I was never that comfortable directing. It was fine, but I preferred writing. Writing was what I wanted.
You did it to make sure one of your scripts was made so you could get to that next phase, which is admirable, because I think that's half the struggle with independent filmmakers is a lot of talk and not enough sort of action, and the minute you stop talking and say, no, this is it, I'm drawing a line in the sand, I'm going to go out and make something, you're already like separating yourself from the pack of everyone else who's just sort of a couch dreamer, so to speak. So I think that's a crucially important step that you took. and ultimately it led to more writing opportunities. So you really like you took the risk, you put your own money down, and you did open the floodgates of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and it was the right time for me as well. It was, you know, now if I was laid off and got a redundancy check, I would not spend it on a film. I would put that into a savings account because, you know, now I have a family and everything, and I was still young enough to
Yeah.
I was in my early 30s, and I was like, yeah, I can do this. I don't have any other responsibilities. So yeah, it was, and it served its purpose. Very much so. I mean, I don't know if I just had it in my head. I need a calling card. I need to be able to
Yeah.
show my work. And you know, things slowly happened, but everything happens slowly in your career, I think. But now when looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I think that was the thing. Once I could show, yeah, I can write a script,
Yeah.
and often, especially with comedies, people read the script and they go, "Oh, I think that's funny. I'm not really sure." It can be hard to call. So, you know, you got to put it up on the screen to go like, "Yes, look, these jokes will work.
They
Just
work. Yeah.
give me the chance."
Yeah, there's an interesting thing, you know, because I've generally, so I've largely written everything that I've directed, but in the last 4 years, I've been trying to direct things that I haven't written because I do want to get into television. I do want to do other things, and that's a really interesting process to just read a script because it can be interpreted so many ways. And like on a short film, you know, I get to talk to the writer, or an indie feature. I can talk to the writer and kind of understand what they wanted to say. But I do often wonder like what that disconnect is. I wonder how many writers like wake up and see a finished movie and be like, that's not at all what I meant, you know? Like,
Yeah, I've talked to writers who've had that like they've written things
mhm,
and then gone like, oh no, they fundamentally did not understand what I was going for here. Especially in things where like there's been a few schemes here with the film where we have screen what they used to be called the Irish Film Board, now they're called Screen Ireland, where they like pair up directors and writers and stuff like that.
okay.
So sometimes writers can find themselves working with people who aren't who they wouldn't have chosen or they didn't know, and then you know you find that kind of clash of styles sometimes. Now that I say it, well, I don't know if it was actually Screen Ireland that did that. It might have been a smaller funding body,
I
but
know
I know
Screen
people.
Ireland, Screen Ireland, I know because it's one of the big co-productions with here in Canada with Telefilm Canada that they always find
Yeah,
projects to work together on.
but I have seen as well though. I've had script reads of my work where even just the actors, you kind of go, oh, I didn't realize that that could be interpreted that way. Like, because you know, you kind of go like, oh, this is obviously this character means this, and then someone comes at it from a completely different angle, which can be great,
Yeah.
but also can be like, no, 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 that's completely
Yeah.
wrong. You've misinterpreted it, and then of course you have to go back and and think if the actor has misinterpreted it, maybe I just haven't written it properly. Um,
Absolutely. Well, I think
but
we're sorry. I try to keep all these under 20 minutes, so
yes,
we're,
yeah,
we're out of time. I feel like we could
yeah.
chat forever. I really love. Again, I love this film. I hope everybody at home watching this, if you're not on Reveal already, reveal.net. It's free. You can watch all kinds of amazing content. There's new content added almost daily. It's all the time. Every time I log in, there's new stuff to watch. And it's my pleasure to sit and chat with you. I love chatting with other creators, and I think there's just a real importance in sharing stories of how everybody got started, how they made their indie films, because it's so important to the next generation coming up to sort of learn from us. Because I grew up in an era where there was barely even internets, and you know, finding information on how to make movies was nowhere near as accessible as it is today. So, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on this film and everything that's come from it.
Thanks very much. This has been great. Thanks.